Heather Clancy in the GreenBiz studio at Verge Hawaii. I am joined today by Brian Janis, the Director of Energy Strategy for Microsoft. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Looking very festive and Hawaiian.
Thank you. I'm enjoying my time here very much.
So, you and I've been covering Microsoft's strategy with respect to buying renewables for quite a while, and I believe we indicated that you signed your first power purchase agreement around 2012.
That's correct, yeah.
How is the market, how has the energy market changed since that time?
Well, it's changed pretty dramatically. In 2012, the idea of a corporate signing a 20-year power purchase agreement for electricity was somewhat novel. You could at that time probably count on one hand the companies that had actually done something like that. And so it was unique for us, and it was unique for a lot of companies. Of course, since that time, we've seen a massive uptick in the number of companies that are participating in these types of deals. And of course, we've also seen a dramatic decrease in the price of getting into these deals, which has only helped to further accelerate the market. So it's been a big change between when we started and where we are today.
So how does the price changing affect the risk involved for you and the developers, or actually, I guess, all the constituents in the food chain?
It's really interesting because on the one hand, you look at the decline in price and you think, well, this is great for everyone, but it's not necessarily great for everyone because electricity markets are a very unique animal in that as we continue to put more supply into a market where we're actually seeing flat to decreasing demand, we're having a material effect on the actual price of power as well at the same time. So there's an externality there that is material for thinking about how we even design electricity markets in the future, because we can't keep putting on more zero variable cost energy into a market and not expect to have some impact on the nature of that market.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, you mentioned that, and I actually just a couple weeks ago, someone came knocking on my door. I'm in New Jersey, wanting me to switch providers, and they were like going door to door, like kind of like the phone companies do. And so that's residential, obviously, but it makes me think that the whole market is changing so dramatically from a pricing standpoint, from a competitive standpoint. Now, what does that mean to you as a corporate buyer?
One thing it means for us is that electricity has become very cheap, which is certainly not a bad thing for a company that is buying more electricity every year as our cloud growth accelerates. But it does create a lot of interesting new opportunities in the marketplace as a whole. Even you mentioned the resi market. It's such an interesting place right now where you have companies setting up shop. There was one in Texas recently who's exclusively focusing on the resi market because suddenly electricity prices are so cheap in these wholesale markets that you can save a lot from the standard offer. You know, and it's really changed the dynamic in a lot of ways. And so I think the business models are starting to evolve. But it creates a lot of risk too, because low electricity prices are not great for everyone. It's certainly not great for, say, a power plant that was hoping to have some return, you know, based on a massive investment they made, you know, a couple years ago, and that return's just not there anymore.
I'm also sure it's probably not great for someone that signed a 20-year power purchase agreement at one price, and then all of a sudden the price cuts down below. So how does is it affecting the length of the PPAs that are being signed?
It is to some degree. You're seeing some shorter PPAs. I think more companies are starting to realize that getting a 20-year deal at 2.5 cents is not necessarily going to save you money in the short run when power's clearing at sub 2 cents. That these things are not a free lunch. And so that's a realization I think that's starting to kick in, is that 3 or 4 years ago everyone thought, oh, these are only going to always save me money, and they're realizing as these things start to settle in the market, we're actually having to write checks and then go back and explain why these aren't saving us money from day one. So there's got to be another motivation there. It can't just be about we're going to save money, but that there's some rationale and reasoning behind why we do these things that aren't just about we're going to be saving money from day one.
While there isn't a federal level strategy, and of course the whole environment has changed quite dramatically in the last 3 months, there are some things happening at the federal level. There's a grid review going on right now. There's talk of stability. Do you feel like that's a dynamic that's going to affect what you're doing?
It could, but I would say that going back to the issue of whether these things save us money or not. I mean, we're committed to doing this because it's the right thing to do. We're building the infrastructure that I think it's a lot like the where the electricity industry was 100 years ago, where the innovators at that time, the Thomas Edisons and the Sam Ensel, they built the infrastructure that created the foundation for all the innovation that we saw in the 20th century. I mean, there's nothing that happened of significance in the 20th century that wasn't in some way dependent upon electricity as sort of the engine of innovation. And we look at data centers today as the same way, right? We're building, it's really going to be data that's going to be the electricity of the next century, right? And so we feel like that there's a legacy that we're going to leave with what we build. And that's important to us as a company. It's not just about, are we going to save money on this PPA or not, but are we going to do this the right way? Right? And are we going to leave a positive story as we look back, or our children look back, 50 and 100 years from now, did we do the right thing in the way that we built out this infrastructure?
2 closing questions. 1, what's your biggest worry?
In the short run, it is what happens at the federal level, and do we further distort the markets through, say, favoring things like baseload generation over everything else, zero emissions credits, things like that. I think those can have a short run effect, though I think ultimately, we're going to continue to innovate around those barriers, whatever gets thrown up in the short run.
And the biggest opportunity, what are you excited about the most with respect to your strategy?
I am excited about the opportunity to continue innovating around business models in the utility sector. I think we've barely scratched the surface on how we can rethink the model of the electric utility. And I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there yet to uncover.
Okay, well, I look forward to tracking it with you. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.